All right, folks, Yishai Fleischer here in beautiful Jerusalem. You know, for a long time, I've wanted to interview a Druze, not Jews, Druze, right? They're a different ethnic group that lives here in Israel. I've wanted to talk with a Druze, bring those voices to you. Sadly, I've had to speak with a Druze representative because of the situation that they're facing in Syria right now. That situation has led me to finally get a great spokesman for the Druze community, and his name is Mansour Ashkar. He's really one of the best, a YouTuber and a spokesman for the Druze, and I got to talk to him about Druze-Jewish connections, Druze and Jews, but also the situation in Syria and how Israel can help the opportunity to defend the Druze and to make our community stronger together. Check this out.
Several days of clashes and attacks by groups linked to the Syrian government have dozens of civilians killed. A heavy assault on the Jermana area, south of Damascus, spread quickly to Sahnaya, Ashrafiyah and Sueda. These attacks are part of a wider regional conflict, further deepening Syria's ongoing crisis, but now focusing on Druze areas.
Now, the Druze is a complicated story. We're going to hear much more in a second. The Druze is a complicated story. I myself, in my personal life, have a lot to do with Druze. In Hebron, a lot of the army officers are Druze. What is a Druze? Well, it's an Arabic-speaking peoples who do not define themselves as Arabs or Muslims. They don't define themselves as Arabs, although they're Arabic-speaking. They have a different religion, which is not Christian and it's not Muslim. It's based on Jethro, and it's a kind of secret religion. And they have basically an ideology of being loyal to the country that defends them. They are also a militant type people, the warrior type people. They're proud of their fighting tradition. And now they are under attack in Syria. And the big question is, what should Israel do about it? Oh, one more point. The Druze that live in Israel are mostly loyal to Israel. But there was for a long time Druze that lived in the Golan Heights that also had family in Syria. And therefore they kept their loyalty at a distance from Israel, although they lived as residents of Israel, but they knew that if they would become totally Israeli, they would therefore endanger their family in Syria. So there was a kind of coldness there. But now there is a strong call to have Israel defend those Syrians for various reasons. We have with us a very special person. I'm very excited to have him with us right now. His name is Mansour Ashkar. He is an ex-Israeli special forces Druze. That means that he's not Jewish, Arabic speaking, but he served in the IDF. He is a father trying to make the world a better place. And he's a YouTuber and makes videos, as he says, one video at a time, aspiring film director, born storyteller in pursuit of adventure, and the dream to find the perfect D&D party. I think that's a great way to describe a very interesting person who has a great channel. Mansour, thank you so much for joining me today. Shalom and welcome.
Thank you for having me. And yes, I still haven't found the perfect D&D party. I just saw one of the comments here. Someone made a really cute kind of, the symbol of the Druze and the Israeli flag, kind of like this one. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, we've been putting the Seychelles flag for so long because no one have the Druze emoji flag. And I just started a petition not long ago that I'm trying to find someone that can finally add the Druze flag into the emoji bank. I mean, there's people in Seychelles who are getting terrified. They see a picture of the Seychelles flag and a bunch of jihadis driving in Syria going to slaughter the Druze, and they're thinking what's happening here? But yeah, anyway, that just kind of amused me. But thank you so much for inviting me, and you gave a very good explanation about who the Druze are, especially for many people around the world who don't know who the Druze are. We're a very small minority that are pretty much kept to ourselves. Very similar to the Jews in that point. We're just trying to live our life and practice our own faith and be loyal to the ground that we're living in. But lately, it's became very important for the Druze to be known around the world, because as we're speaking right now, there's a genocide attempt. There's an October 7 attempt on the Druze in Syria. Very similar. You're seeing bodies being piled into trucks. I spoke to some of my relatives right now who are living there, asked them what happened to these men. They said they disappeared, most likely executed and somewhere in a ditch right now. As we're speaking right now, I got a message from a Druze sheikh who showed me a video of a Druze holy place in Syria that was just burned down and looted by jihadists, and they made a graffiti outside after they burned the place down. We love you, Muhammad, which is a very ironic way of showing your love to your God by going and destroying, killing holy places for others. But
It's
yeah,
ironic,
I'm
or
sure
it's
we're
not
going to talk
ironic.
about it.
It's ironic. Maybe it's not ironic. That's really their system of belief, which is conquest, and in their mind they have to eradicate people who don't believe that belief system, and to them Arabic speaking others are a threat or a problem, or kufar or whatever it is. They're non-believers. They're heretics. And so this guy who leads Syria today, his name used to be Julani, right? Now it's something else. He changed his name. What, like he put like beard stuff in his beard, made it nice, and put a
He
nice
had a
tie
PR
on.
guy. He made it. Let's go Zelensky and Che Guevara, kind of combine the two. That's going to be the new image. The Europeans would love it. Americans will fall for it, especially the academia in America. They love Che Guevara. They love Let's go for that.
But what's his new name now? Remind me what his name? Ashara? Right. Ashara. Now, this guy, he was an Al-Qaeda jihadi. He made claims that he wants to see the place work together with all its minorities, that he wants to defend the minority. He talked the talk. A lot of people said this guy's a jihadi and a fake. Other people say he just loses control sometimes because of the what do you think? Do you think that this guy is just a guy who wants to get rid of the Druze and he wants to just not see non-believers, heretics destroyed? Or do you think that he's just a dude who has not yet gotten control of a place that has lost control?
Well, first of all, he was also in ISIS, not only Al-Qaeda.
Right.
And a lot of my Syrian, contacts I'm talking about now, including ex-Muslims, they say that, he's fooling the West, he's not fooling us. It's like Al-Qaeda and ISIS had a baby and they brought him to the world, and that's, his new faction. Undoubtedly, the guy's a terrorist. He has the records. He came from a very known, established terrorist organization declared by the US and Europe. Now, the question that I ask myself sometimes is, if he's a religious zealot, then we have nothing to talk about. If he's an opportunist who came and saw a chance to come and just jump out of, that was my chance to go through Al-Qaeda, get a life to myself, then jump out of it. Oh, there's a chance now to become political. Then there might be something to talk about because he's not a religious zealot. Regardless of that, the action and the government and the people that he brought into his cabinet are clearly known terrorists. I remember when I was in the service in Israel, I saw a video that shocked me till today. That was one of the first videos that shocked me. And it was a woman that, a typical Arab woman that was wearing the hijab and everything, and she was begging in the street. And there was a bunch of men with beards standing around her. And one of them was the Secretary of Defense of Jolani now, or the deputy in position. And he executed her live in the street as she was begging to go back to her children. So when that's someone that is in your government, who are you going to try to fool? It's like, it's not fooling anyone. And as we're speaking right now, we know, I just spoke to my relatives in Sueda, and they just told me that
what Sueda is. Tell us what that is.
So in Syria, you have different Druze areas. The biggest area is called Sueda. It's the mountain of the Druze, and that is the strongest area of the Druze as well, where they keep to themselves.
It's a mountain range. It's one mountain. It's a big city. What is it? What is this?
It's a combination of several villages in the area of Sueda that is like a province. It's like a Druze province.
And it's on one mountain, many mountains?
It's on one area, big mountain that have different hills. But it's the area of the Druze, and that's why they're so good at defending it. And it's
called the Druze Mountain, right?
It's a Druze mountain. Yeah, right. That is known as a Druze mountain. Mm-hmm. And they've been under siege now for several days. And what Jawlani's forces did is they first sent the hordes of the Bedouins to go and charge on them. And the Bedouins there went and tried to plunder and kidnap some of the women. The Druze fought the Bedouins, defeated them. Miraculously, there was no losses to the Druze, and there was several hundred losses for the Bedouins there. But now they started shelling their town. And meanwhile, they're seeing tanks coming around, armored vehicles coming around. And the people of Jawlani, not officially by the government, but a lot of the religious people in the government made a fatwa and they called for the annihilation of the Druze. And you mentioned that before, it was all came after a fake audio. No one can prove that it was right. The Druze are saying it's not. That someone's insulting the Prophet, as if this is an excuse to go and start plundering houses, killing.
Muhammad, you mean?
Muhammad, yeah. Muhammad, the warlord. Let's call him the warlord, okay? Let's be honest to historically. He didn't prophesize anything. You know, you want to call someone a prophet, you know, at least show me one prophecy you prophesied that came true. If you didn't, you're a false prophet. But anyway, we're not going to go there, or at least, you know, not yet. So someone insulted Muhammad, and then they went and started plundering, killing, butchering, you know, innocent people, students. And
this is a classic, what's it called? Fake flag.
Excuse, yeah. They were. So here's what the people in Syria.
Hitler used this kind of stuff all the time. False flag. This is, you know, for example, Hitler famously, they killed Germans at a Polish radio station, and they claimed that it was the Poles that killed them, and it started a whole false flag operation in order to start the war in Poland. It's a classic trick. It's like you're like you hurt my feelings actually, and now I'm justified to attack you back.
It's a classic trick, and they've been waiting to do it. And if you see, there's so much sinister planning into it that is coming to surface now. Again, it's not reaching social media. That's why I'm so thankful for
how many Druze live up there at the mountain of Sueda?
I think it's about 400,000 Druze, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, quite.
Did they have any heavy weaponry? Did they have artillery, jets?
Right
tanks?
now in Sueda, there's about 5,000 armed men defending Sueda.
Armed with what?
With AK-47s mostly.
Okay.
Some of them managed to steal from the army. So some of them were soldiers in the Syrian army who defected when Assad was, being cruel to the nation, the civil war. They said we want no part in that, and they left. So they took a lot of weapons with them because they knew what's going to happen. But they don't have any armored vehicles. They maybe have a few APCs that they managed to seize, but nothing more than that.
Okay.
Most of them are, I spoke today, actually, to one of them. It's not a professional army. This is the first time actually that I'm, revealing this, because I wanted to make a video about it. So this is the first time that I'm talking about this. They're not a professional army. They're not a paid army. Some of them have military experience. Most of them don't. They're teaching each other. They're all working other jobs. People there are making $30 a month. They barely have food. They barely have, ammunition. They're desperate for ammunition. What happened, in Jarmana, which in the end they succumbed to the attacks because they ran out of ammunition, because they sieged them. Now, what they told me is very, very concerning and sinister. They said that the Muslims in Syria have planned already to go and eliminate all the kuffar. So they went for the Alawites first. It was the best excuse.
Right. Now, I'm not in favor, God forbid, please do not in any way misunderstand me. I have to say this so carefully. But within the rules of the Middle East, the Alawites at the end were part of a whole system that suppressed the Syrian people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they deserve to be hurt or anything like that. Please do not misunderstand me. But I can understand within the rules of the Middle East of the Arab world that there's blood that was spilled in the other direction, and so there's this continuing fight. But what did the Druze have to do with it?
So you're 100% right.
Did I say something? Do you think that what I said is sick and wrong?
No, what you said is what I think as well. The Alawites, many of them were not innocent. They were part of the very oppressive regime. But with that said, there's many Alawites. They're just, a child who was just born to a family.
Right.
Or a young man or an old lady.
And we saw videos, just to explain, I'm not going to play these videos, but we saw them go, we saw the jihadists go into these villages of the Alawites, make the people crawl on hands and knees, beat them in the meantime, and then shoot them.
Yeah.
So we saw the worst stuff. I'm sure there's even worse stuff that videos didn't come out about. But the bottom line is that they tortured and destroyed hundreds of Alawites. But what did the Druze have to do with it? Why would the jihadis have a problem with the Druze?
So the Druze are considered in the eyes of the jihadis as kuffar because they're not Muslims. And in Islam, it's a very totalitarian kind of religion. And once you become Muslim, you can't leave. And the Druze, in their eyes, left Islam, so they should be killed. Now, you mentioned something about the Druze of Majd al-Shams and their alliance to Israel while maintaining some alliance to Syria, which
You're talking about in the Golan Heights in the north,
the Golan Heights in Israel,
very north of Israel, and they were like across the border. Those Druze that for a long time seemed like, and I was a kid, we knew that those Druze are standoffish. They're not exactly with us. They're still flying the Syrian flag. They had this relationship.
Yeah. So I spoke actually yesterday, and one of my relatives told me, like, now we don't need to wear that mask anymore. He said, you see, our relatives in Syria many times were actually even pretending to be Muslims to survive. So Muslims don't kill them. So Muslim will come and say, wait, are you Muslim or not? No, I'm Muslim. And they will many times tempt them, okay, give me your daughter. And he was, oh, sorry, I can't give you my daughter, etc. That's why the Druze kind of moved to Sueda to protect themselves. But they had the biggest question that they were always asking them, are you khaynin? Are you traitors? What do you mean? Are you with Israel or with us? So of course we're not with Israel. We're with you guys. Well, what about your relatives in Israel? Yeah, you see, they're not Israelis. So for the relatives in Israel whose village split in half, they were all the time kind of, doing these fake demonstrations and going around. But still, if you tell them, where would you like to live in Israel and Syria, they'll tell you definitely Israel. And when you look at it, there was never any terrorist attack that came from Majd al-Shams or etc. So they did have this dual loyalty out of fear for their families, but inside they much rather be in Israel. Many Druze in Israel, including myself, were not very happy with them because we came and said, guys, we understand 5 years, 10 years, come on, you've been living here for I don't know how many years now. We're sharing the burden. We're going to the military. We're doing, risking our life to protect you. You should also do that. But they were stuck between the hammer and the angel, whatever you call it.
Anvil, yeah.
Yeah, so that's from the D&D world.
Okay, now, okay. So far we've talked about the situation that the Druze now face vis-a-vis the new government in Syria.
Yes.
We've talked about the attack that has been many different waves. You talked about the Bedouin attack and now a more armed attack with artillery, tanks. And this is something that probably the Druze cannot withstand with their AKs. Okay. Now let's shift gears. The question now is in the hands of Israel. What is Israel going to do? Does Israel take responsibility for the Druze on multiple levels? One, we have loyal Druze citizens living in the country, fighting in our army. They're part of our social, societal mosaic. They're part of our life here. And we have a moral duty to our citizens to protect their brothers and sisters, their family. That's one. Another one is maybe a bigger one, which is Israel has a chance now to send a message to the jihadis. You're not going to be in control. You're not going to threaten people that we are allied with. We are a minority people. We have other minority peoples that we protect. And Israel is willing to be bigger in the region. Okay, Syria is not the same old Syria. We're holding on to the Hermon mountain range. And now we're going to also protect these people. They're under our protectorate. They may not necessarily be Israeli citizens or residents, but they're under our protective arm. We're going to make sure that they're safe. And Israel has done a little bit about that. They have bombed. They did some kind of bomb that
precision airstrikes.
An airstrike that came close to Jolani's al-Shara's palace, former palace of Bashar al-Assad. But a lot of other people, including a lot of my friends, are upset that Israel isn't doing more. And some of my friends, myself included, have always been frustrated that Israel has not done enough to see itself as a big boy in the block with allies that we have to support. And that's true about the Druze, and that's true also about the Kurds, and that's true about the South Lebanese army. And in fact, within our own conversations, we sometimes say, Israel, you've done a pretty poor job at defending our allies, and that you don't have a sense of allies. In fact, my more internal Israel dialogue is, we are such a ghetto people. All we do is think about our little ghetto and defending our little ghetto instead of realizing that God Allah has made us big now, and that we are responsible for other people. And all these airplanes and things that we have means that we have to assert security control around this region and protect other minorities that are victims of the same enemies that we have, which is the jihad. So I've said a lot of things. Now you tell me, how do you and your family and the people that you are communicating, and by the way, it's important to know you have become a leading voice on YouTube, and we're talking with Mansour Ashkar, with speaking out the voice of the Druze in the English language. So you've become a leader in that. A lot of people are probably communicating with you and telling you how they're seeing it. So tell me, so now revert back to me what I just said about Israel, how your friends, how the people that you speak with see what Israel's role should be in the defense or not defense of the Druze.
You mentioned something very, very interesting, and I'm a proud Israeli. I'm a very proud Israeli. I see it as the greatest country, at least, I was born in Israel. I haven't lived in many other, but that was the greatest country I've lived in my life. Israel is not behaving well towards its allies. And one of the reasons that you mentioned, Israel needs to start behave like a local power. Look at America. America is revering itself as an empire, as a very modern, powerhouse, and they defend their allies and they stand with their allies. Israel should stop playing the defense game. Israel should start playing, we are the owner of this land here. We are a powerhouse in this region, and we're going to make sure that everyone here behaved according to our standards. And that's good because Israeli standards are very good and moral standards. Now, Israel have a chance now to save a very strong group of allies in Syria, because I said that way, aside from the moral obligation, let's say, that they have toward their Druze brothers in Israel, which stood with them again and again and again, shoulder by shoulder. My grandfather fought in all of the Israeli wars. He was a decorator. He was the first Druze to light the Mesuah, the first non-Jew to light the Mesuah.
Just to explain to people, like a few years ago, the commander of one of the most Israeli of all Israeli brigades is the Golani Brigade. That's like the Israel,
the Marine Corps.
Right, but it's like the Golani is like the hardcore, like Israelis, and the commander of that was a Druze officer of the Golan. So that means that the Druze have achieved a level of respect and support here in Israel that's very high. Some of the I train almost once a month in shooting. Some of my best trainers are Druze.
Yeah, one of the Druze that died in Gaza about 5 years ago, and his name was not allowed to be revealed for so many years because he was one of the top most secret units of Israel, was an undercover Druze person who worked with Shabak and Sayeret Matkal, who was very deep in Gaza, and his role was so important that even after his death, his family was not been able to receive, the condolence for his death because he was so top secret in the job that he was doing. We have Druze in the elite, special forces, in the commanding, in the government, everywhere. We embedded ourselves in the country. But what I'm saying is, every Israeli need to understand, and there's so many Israelis that are supporting actually the Druze. The people that came now to kill the Druze will come tomorrow to kill the Jews.
They came yesterday also.
They came yesterday, yeah. And right. Actually, they're saying that out loud. So the Druze right now are the last line of defense and buffer zone from these radicals in Syria. And if they annihilate the Druze, you're going to have them on the border with Israel.
Right.
And you're going to have them waiting to
You're saying that there's a very sensical, technical, not even such a moral. It's a defensive rationale. You're saying 100%. Help the Druze. They are your buffer zone. They want to stay there. Arm them, defend them. They are fighters. They'll stay there. They'll push back the bad guys from your borders.
Yeah, I would say even more. What is Syria? Syria doesn't belong to Al-Qaeda. Syria doesn't belong to ISIS. Syria, back in the day, someone divided the lands over here and gave some, they gave some Christians, actually, the area of Syria. The Muslims came, took it from them, killed them, kicked them out. There were some Jews there. They kicked the Jews out of there as well. And now they made it, this Taliban, Al-Qaeda land full of terrorists. Israel shouldn't care about these camel poop, just should go there, take the parts that they need to take to secure their defense. That's what I think as a Druze. Right. As well. Strengthen the belt with the allies, the Druze, train the Druze, help them. They protect us, we protect them. You're going to have, for the first time in the history of the Middle East.
Wait. I want to understand. Do you want to see those Druze in Syria become, let's say, residents of Israel? Do you think it should be, or no, it stays Syria, but it's under Israeli protectorate? You're saying arm them, train them, make them into a forward fighting force, which they're naturally, that's what they want to do anyway. Do you think it's important for Israel to assert political sovereignty there, or military sovereignty, or no? Just let the Druze have a autonomy there, their own space. Let's call it Druzestan.
Druzeland. Yeah.
Druzeland, right? What do you think about that?
So I think, I'm thinking out loud now, and I'm not a politician, I'm not a religious, figure in the Druze community, but, I have a brain and I have experience in my life. What I think is, if Israel is to take the area in the Golan Heights that they already took, make it part of Israel, there is Druze villages there. These Druze villages, bring them, make them part of Israel. That's what I think. You're going to get very loyal, very strong, independent citizens who are going to help you in every possible way. The rest of the Druze, I don't think, because we're talking here, what makes Israel unique is its Jewish identity. And I am very pro for that. When I was an officer in the army, when I would sing the Tikva, the hymnon, I would say, Nefesh Yehudi Humiyah, I would sing it as it is because it's a Jewish country. So I don't know if Israel should bring now non-Jewish religions in big numbers into Israel. It's not.
That's why I believe in residency. Residency. I believe in residency. I believe that you are part of our thing, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to shape the character of the country. Like, I very much believe in residency for loyal. They're part of our broader family, but there's a different status. And I for Americans, it's hard to hear, but for you, it's not so hard to hear. Better to be an Israeli resident than under the gun in Syria. Or do the Syrian Druze want an autonomy? Do they want their own, let's call it, semi-state there of some kind?
So what I would think is the Druze are close to the border. If Israel takes that, bring them, make them residents of Israel. The Druze that are in Syria, help them create their own belt of Druze land. And I'm telling you, once that happens, you're going to have Christians running there. Every minority is going to run there to be defended by the Druze and the Jews. And then protect them. They'll protect you, you protect them. And you're going to start seeing Israelis going for tourisms and et cetera there. And they're coming here. It's going to be a very good solution.
By the way, one of the other issues with the Druze is that Druze are good builders, and they do a lot of the plumbing, electricity, building, air conditioning, all the stuff that Israel desperately needs, army stuff. So in many ways, they're also a natural workforce for Israel. And so that's actually, and also the Druze have a holy place in Israel, Jethro's tomb, right? Which I've visited myself, and that's very important to them. And Israelis, of course, would love to visit up there. The only problem is, Mansour Ashkar, the only problem is part of the Israeli psychology, which I am working on trying to heal, which is what I said before, a certain ghettoization, a certain smallness of thinking, a certain non-Middle East-like attitudes, much more kind of European, small. I just want to survive. I don't want, what Israelis say all the time? They say, I don't want to control any other peoples. And I always say to them, all powers control other peoples. That's just the most natural thing in the world. And you know what? We're going to be blessing to those peoples, and they're going to be happy. But yeah, you're going to have to control other peoples. That's just the way it is. That's just the way. You can't stay in your little ghetto. If God has granted you these jets and this strength, then you have to use it. You have to use it for the good and to defend people. But this part of Israeli psychology, and we've seen it. We saw it very, very embarrassingly with the SLA, with the South Lebanese Army, which after they helped defend the North Israel and the South Lebanon, Israel kind of turned their back on them. And we know about that. So that is something in the Israeli psyche that needs to be healed. When I took a tour up north and I met with many Druze, I always tell Druze, tell me what you really think. Just tell me what you really think. Like let's drop, just tell me what's going on. And they always tell me, you guys are too weak against the jihad. You're too weak against the jihad.
My God.
But you say it to us. Say it to the audience, Mansour. Say, me and you are just talking. We're two guys. I'm just saying, you're a Druze, I'm a Jew. What do you think about Israel? Like, what do you think? What do you think if you would analyze Israel? What's your take on it?
You're talking military wise?
I'm talking vis-a-vis the jihad, vis-a-vis the
Yeah,
bad.
Israel is way too weak and doesn't understand the language here. We say that a lot. Israel does not speak Arabic in the Middle East, and you cannot speak here sushi or any other language. You need to speak hummus. It's a Middle East here. And in the Middle East, what counts is power and respect. And Israel have to play that game if they want stability in that area. October 7 came because they did not respect you or feared your power. That's it. That's why it came. October 7, also the later Israeli response that came way too weak, way too humanitarian, gave Hamas the chance to look like heroes. I mean, they're not heroes. They're a bunch of cowards, perverts. That's what they are. And they barely know how to fight. They're just fighting like cowards behind women and children, just coming out, shooting RPG, running down. If they will face the IDF face to face, they will be annihilated in a day. So Israel's response with them have made them also look like heroes because Israel is not speaking the language. I've just, that might be controversial. People might not like hearing it, but I've just been reading about a petition to give the penalty of death to the Nukhba terrorists who came to Israel, murdered, raped women, and killed children. And people started debating in a group that I was just added to. And I came and I said, guys, what kind of a question is that? You need to kill them by hanging. You need to bring these cranes, put them over Gaza, leave them there hanging in the air for weeks for all the people in Gaza to see that's what happened to anyone who comes to Israel to kill women and children.
That's right.
Make it as clear as possible, as brutal as possible, so they will see, they will be shocked. You need to humiliate the jihadist ideology. You need to crush it. And you need to not humiliate it in your own eyes. It needs to be humiliated in the eyes of their friends. They need to look like fools, like a joke. So when Mustafa comes out and tries to put a V in the air after you completely demolished, his town because they try to fight and hiding hostage in this town, all the Arab nation would look and say, are you stupid? Look what you've done. Dahmar, into test, look what have you done. Never mess with the Jews. Why are you trying to kill them? They will wipe you out from the face of this earth because they will stand to defend themselves. Now, Israel does not present that language. There's a famous story when Hamas and the jihadists kidnapped a Druze, teenager. Maybe the Americans don't know that story. So I have a friend from the Shabak, and he shared that story from the Shabak and the Mossad side of things. He called me. We got a call from the Israeli government, Prime Minister office, telling us we have an Israeli hostage. Now notice, not a Druze hostage, Israeli hostage. And they all panicked. That was during the Gilad Shalit kind of time and thinking, oh my God, we're going to end up with another 1,000 terrorists going back and I don't know what. It's going to be terrible. So they start coming, putting maps and preparing, I don't know what, getting ready for an operation. How can we go and rescue him before he disappears for years to come? Suddenly they get a phone call. Okay, guys, stand down. He's back. Now these guys are serious. They know the Arab world. What do you mean he's back? Hamas doesn't give back their hostages. They don't give it back. That's like the biggest prize they can have. No, he's back. How is he back? What do you mean? Some Druze Shabab went and brought him back. What? There were some guys from a Druze village who went and brought him back. And you know how? They went to the same village, kidnapped people from that village, sent the video to Hamas and the jihad with, these guys standing on the floor and telling them, for every hour that you wait, we're going to send you a body of a hostage that we brought. And then we're going to go and bring more until we finish your entire village. These guys went, Allahu Akbar, Ya Habibi, went and gave back the hostage because they realized they're dealing with people here who understand the mentality and will come and wipe them out if they try to hurt our women and children. And Israelis have been playing this humanitarian. Now, I love that about Israel because Israel is a great country. It is a humanitarian country. It's a country that allows me, as a Druze, to have my freedom of religion, allows my mom to walk in the street, to go and meet with people. My mom is one of the most respected women in a Jewish city. She walks out of the street and so many religious and non-religious Jewish taxi drivers stop. They see her. Khalta, come here. Let me drive you. Let me help you with the shopping. Don't even take money from her. So we're very lucky to live in a country that appreciates humanitarian values. But in the Middle East, you're not Switzerland. You can't be
humanitarian to the jihad.
You can't.
You can be humanitarian to people who want to receive that love and to live that normal life, but you can't play that game with enemies who want to destroy you.
Yeah.
That our sages, the Jewish sages, say, "He who is merciful to the wicked, in the end, becomes wicked to the merciful."
Yeah.
You don't be merciful to the wicked. You have to fight them. You have to fight them and seek to destroy them before they destroy good people, and that's what they want to do.
And bringing it back to Syria, Israel have another chance right now to shape the Middle East the way that you want to see it, which is, let's face it, a safe place that is kind to everyone.
Right.
And if they act strongly against Jawlani and against these guys and tell them, hands off the Druze, hands off the Christians, hands off every minority, that's it. We're going to hold you to our standard. You're not going to hurt anyone there. We allow you. Jawlani need to remember that the reason Israel allowed him to take power, when I say allow him, because Israel can take it down any second, is because Assad was terrible, and then came this guy, and he took it over, and we thought, you know what, let's see. Maybe he's going to make things better. But if he's not making things better, Israel should go and just kick the camel poop out of all of them and just put them in place. And I think that's going to be a win-win for Israel, for the Jews, for everyone, because these guys are literally evil. They are evil. Anyone who don't understand that, if you're a college student somewhere in Yale and you completely lost your mind, you don't know who's who and who's what, radical jihad is evil, guys.
Right.
They're terrible. They're killing people. They're oppressing. They have modern day slavery there. They're marrying young daughters. They're just going around and killing people in the most humiliating way. There's videos right now of Druze that are forced to make sounds of sheep and cows probably before they were killed. Now, I was saying something sinister that happened. That came from my Syrian friends. They said, and they're afraid of this, because they said now they're sieging on us, and they've learned a lesson from what happened with the Alawites, because they, airstreamed it and live streamed it to the world like Hamas did, and it backfired on them. So now they have an official command going around the ranks: don't film anything. Do any wicked deed under the sun, just don't film it. So there is things. That's why you're not seeing a lot of videos coming out of Syria anymore. Mm-hmm. It's not because they're nice. They just stopped airing it because it's actually shooting the back. That shot Hamas back in the leg very badly. If they would have probably noted now, they would probably said maybe we should have not done it. But because they did it, at least it gave some contra to the justification.
Well, they do it. They do have a tactical reason to shoot these videos.
But in the end of the day, it's still...
wait, Mansour. Things that for me and you are obvious are not obvious for some people in the audience. People don't understand why Hamas would shoot this footage. They don't understand. It's an old tactic. You have to spread fear. When they're inhumane, it's not just because they're just barbarian. There's a thinking behind it. The more barbaric you seem, the more fear you sow on other people. Terrorism is the broadcasting of fear. Mm-hmm. They want you to be terrorized. They want you to be filled with terror inside your heart. They're spreading terror on purpose. Okay, they want you to be afraid. They want you to be broken emotionally. They want that. That's part of their tactics.
But to humiliate, not only fear, it's a humiliation and fear. It's the lowest form of fear. They want to humiliate you to the lowest way and then kill you. And that will shake everyone and make them shiver. It's a very, very wicked thing, but it comes with a dehumanization of the other. And that's something that Islam, has been doing very much, and it's very, very wrong. And they should address it. When you look at the Nukhba guys who came to Israel and killed, plundered, raped, killed babies.
By the way, you mentioned Nukhba previously. You said that there's now a discussion about death penalty. Very important. I was with Minister Ben-Gvir in America, and one of the main things he talked about is how important it is to institute the death penalty here in Israel, so that we never have to give back terrorists. So there's no such a thing, so that they know how seriously we mean business, and that we will not give you a good life in our prisons. It's not going to happen. If you murdered our children, you're going to die if we catch you alive.
Yeah. And you need to understand, when you see this 27 years old Nukhba guy, that means that 22 years back, he was 5 years old. He was this, Gazan innocent kid that you're seeing. How do you think did he become from an innocent kid who just wanted to play football to a guy that really have a glee in his eyes when he's going murdering women and children? It's because they've been dehumanizing the other side so badly, the Jews. And that's what they're doing in Syria now. They're dehumanizing the Druze. They're calling them pigs. They're calling them animals. They're dehumanizing everyone that is not like them. And that gives them that justification to go and murder and kill in the most horrific way. And part of their strategy, like we said, is to humiliate and spread fear among everyone around the world.
Let's not get too far into it, just because I think, Mansour, you and I need to be spreading also the strength and the light, and Israel has got to identify these trends, and really this is the moment to step up. October 7th is an awakening, hopefully. For people like myself, October 7th was not an awakening. Nothing changed in my consciousness. It was just a proof of things that we've been saying for years. But October 7th, for many, it was an awakening. And I think that the Druze story is an opportunity right now for Israel. It's an opportunity for Israel to be bigger, to defend its allies, to be smart, to understand who the enemy is and who the friends are, and to empower the Druze to have, after hundreds of years of living in danger and fear, to have a decent life, decent opportunity to defend themselves, to be our allies, and to, in a sense, make Israel stronger and bigger, and make themselves stronger and bigger, and also spread the ideas of, you said, of life and liberty to the region.
That's our flag. And here we are going on another taxi in Israel. שלום, אהלן. נעים מאוד, מה קורה? אכפת לך שאני מצלם?
באהבה, מה זאת אומרת?
כן, אני תמיד...
האמא חבל על הזמן. לאן נוסעים?
ואמא, תגידי, איך זה מרגיש להיות ישראלית?
טוב מאוד, אין יותר טוב במדינה שלנו.
נכון?
בעולם, מה זאת אומרת? זה בכלל לא שאלה.
נכון, אתה יהודי?
ברור.
ואיך אתה מרגיש כלפי הדרוזים ושאר
אחים
הקהילות?
שלנו, מה זאת אומרת? בדם.
בדם.
בנפש. יש לנו חבר חדש בתחנה, את יודעת?
וואלה.
מדינה. יש לנו חבר דרוזי, חבר טוב שלי בתחנה, שאני עוזר לו.
מי זה?
קוראים לו אדם.
וואלה.
כן, כן. רוצה שאני אעלה אותו?
כן, תעלה.
עכשיו אני אעלה אותו.
He's calling another friend of him that is Druze, a new guy in the station, over the taxi phone radio. Coming with my mom on taxis in my city is the funnest thing in the world. Everybody knows her. Everybody
Hello.
loves her.
قول شلום لست مدينة. ست مدينة. قول له شلום. قول لها شلום.
هاي عيوني كيفك؟
كيف حالك؟
اشتقيت لك كثير، وينك؟ وين أراضيك؟
هي أنا هون بإيلات، وين بالمنير؟
وإمتى اجيت عائلات؟
ميوت ما أخذتك، ذاك ميوت ما أخذتك.
بلا آدم.
تعرفي مين ده؟
معلوم من سنور.
هذا صاحبي. ايوه ابويا مصري.
معلوم.
ابويا اسكندراني بيتك.
كيفك يا عيوني منين؟
He's a Jew from Egypt.
לא, אני נולדתי בארץ.
No,
אבא שלי.
he's a Jew, exactly. He's a Jew from Israel. His father was born in Egypt. He speaks Arabic.
שיהיה לכם אחלה יום שבעולם.
אחלה יום, איש יקר. מה השם?
רמי.
רמי, תודה רבה רמי, איש יקר
20
אתה.
שקל.
ותודה שאתה עוזר לי גם תמיד רמי.
מה זאת אומרת? אמא שלך היא אמא שלי גם, לא רק שלך.
אמא של נכון? אמא של כולנו. Amazing! See what I'm saying? I'm not making this up. This was not planned. You couldn't choreograph Israeli taxi driver. Anyone who drove in Israel knows that. Just random spontaneous talks in the streets with Israelis, with Arabs, and this is what you get. A nation that is full of love, full of respect towards one another, and a nation that have my mom in it, who makes the best food in the world. אוהבת אותך, אמא.
גם אני אוהבת אותך. תן אבוסה.
Okay.
I want to tell you that I'm not sure that I felt such disgust in a long time since when those images came out from the Syrian, the Assad prisons. You know, when they opened it up to see the vile, the vile suppression and destruction of life in the most, you know, as you said, to dehumanize, debase, torture, and just the things that they would do to people who just didn't agree with their policies. This is the Middle East deserve better. The children of Abraham deserve better. The people that want to follow our living God deserve better. This region deserves better. And I think that pushing back right now on jihadism, empowering the Druze is the way to go. And let's hope that our prime minister...
allies. Yeah. You know, there's not many... The Jews don't have many allies in the Middle East.
That's right.
And now one of your strongest allies in the Middle East is literally under the threat of extinction. They will not stand for long.
Right.
They're 5,000 strong with barely any weapons, and there's about 100,000, if not even more, of these jihadists coming in them with tanks and heavy artillery. They control their internet. They control the supply, the electricity. They can. It's going to be now. The Druze know the terrain, so they're going to give them a fight as much as they can.
Sure.
But if they're left alone, they will perish.
Right.
And that's why I feel here the obligation to remind everyone it's not only the moral thing to do, but it's also your ally, and you need that ally. It's strengthening.
Right.
I think Israel should give them weapons, should go and give them air coverage. Israel should send Israeli Druze officers. You know what? Send me and my friends. We'll go there. We'll train them.
Right.
Special forces. We'll train these guys. I was talking to them today, asked them, how do they communicate? You know, they don't have radio. They're communicating in WhatsApp.
Right.
You know, they're just farmers and normal people, business owners.
Is there a direct land bridge between Sueda and Israel, or is there is it a direct thing, or do we have to overcome some kind of land barrier?
No, so there is some dividing part of the land that is, you know, have Muslims living in it, and then there's Sueda. Otherwise, things would have been easier.
Right.
So, you know, there's a Druze villages right by the water, and then there's a Muslim Bedouin. That's the Bedouin land, which, by the way, these are the Bedouins that Israel built a hospital for them back in the days when that was a famous, you know, when Israel was treating Syrians out of the, you know, when Assad was killing them. And now the Druze thought that these Bedouins were their allies, by the way. And now they were the first one to turn on them and attack them from within. They literally went and attacked them from within. The Druze right now who are going to fight are leaving one man in the house that is not going outside to fight, because while they were out, they came and started kidnapping their women. So now there's one guy staying, usually the younger boy in the house. He will stay in the house, and if you have enough money, they'll buy a weapon. If not, he'll stand there with a machete. And then his brothers are going outside fighting because that Bedouin belt, you know, is there, and you can't trust them. They literally turn their back on the Druze.
Right.
And, you know, it's terrible. If we don't stand beside them, we're going to witness them being slaughtered and massacred. Because the only genocide happening in the Middle East, ladies and gentlemen, is happening under Islam. The only genocide. Don't believe all the lies. It's not happening under the Jews, happening under Islam, and they're trying to genocide anything in their way, but somehow they managed to buy your Western media, and they're not reporting it. How many people are reporting about the Druze right now? I haven't seen anything.
Nobody cares, and nobody cares also about all the Yemenis that are starving to death under the Houthis. You know, people use the so-called facts in order to strike at the Jews, but to care for the Druze or the Yemenites or many other peoples in this region, nobody cares. Nobody cares. But as you saw in the Syrian conflict, nobody cares that 500,000 Syrians were being butchered by the Assad regime. Nobody cares. In any case, I want to say like this: it's a dark moment, and we could witness, as you said, the annihilation of the Druze community in Syria, or we could see Israel standing up for its allies, pushing back on jihadists, and not letting another October 7th happen to our allies. And so therefore, I hope, as they say in America, that this is going to be our finest hour. Okay. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm praying for that. And I'm praying for that for the sake of Israel, as much as I'm praying for that for the sake of the Druze community. Mansour Ashkar, you have a powerful YouTube channel. I see by the comments, a lot of people know what you're doing. You got to keep pushing out that voice right now and keep talking about it so that people can hear it. You're on the free side of the world, and so you're able to get the messages out. The videos and the internet out of Syria are limited, and so you're out there. And I want to thank you so much for joining us and talking about these things. And you're always welcome to come back again soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. God bless you. Mansour Ashkar, thank you so much for joining us. And that was a very important discussion. Let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Let's pray for the peace of Sueda. And let's see those people be victorious against jihadism with the help of God.